Kevin Owens, host of the Overseas Famous podcast, here to personally invite you to subscribe to our official Patreon. Are you guys ready to take your podcast experience to the next level? Well, with our Patreon, you can do just that. And the best part, pricing starts at just $1. It's like a pack of gum. Less per month. By becoming a Patreon member, you'll unlock a world of amazing perks. We're talking merch giveaways, signed items by our guests, shout outs on the podcast, exclusive content, and so much more. Not only will you guys get to connect with me and the Overseas Famous community on a deeper level, but you'll also gain access to behind the scenes content and early episode releases. So don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Join our Patreon today and become part of the Overseas Famous family. Together, we will make podcast history. Thank you for your support and can't wait to see you on Patreon. Welcome to the Overseas Famous podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Owens. We are joined today by collegiate athlete with an owner of the best name in all of athletics, Jaylen. Jaylen, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So this is going to be fun because we were talking a little bit before we hopped on that this is going to be, I want to tell Jaylen's story, but I also want to put the listener into the mindset of a college athlete these days, because there's so much more pressure and there's so much more going on than I'm 43, than what has even happened 5 years ago. Pre-COVID, there's been a drastic change in a lot of things. So, Jaylen, we're appreciative of you coming on. I want to hear, first, we just talked a little bit about, you had walked on at Memphis, then you transferred, now you entered the transfer portal, and now you are at ECSU playing football. So take us through your thought process, just even your story of getting to be a walk-on at Memphis, and then where your journey has taken you so far.
Okay, so I started high school prior to walking on. I really didn't have a lot of knowledge on the recruitment process, but I knew I could play at that level. So that's why I chose to go to Memphis, and I also had family close out there. I stayed a little bit out there when I was younger too. So that was really the reason why behind I went to Memphis. I went there 2 years, and I hit the portal, and I landed here. And I say, really, I feel like back in high school, I should have stuck with like my mindset of going to like a HBCU, but I really wasn't kind of quite sure. That's why I said like I didn't have like too much knowledge on it. So after those 2 years, I kind of realized like what I wanted, like out of the school and stuff, like playing, all that, like my main factors. So I took all that into consideration, and I landed here at Elizabeth City State, and I live here.
That's great. So let's go into your mind, because what do you think you talked about how it was like you didn't know much about the recruiting process. Is there anyone who helped you with that process? What do you know now that you didn't know then that you think would have helped you in this process of going into a college sports?
You got to know like what exactly you're looking for, like whether that be playing time, the kind of school, the education, all that. Put all those factors into perspective. And I say for me, my pops played in college, but it was like late 90s. So, it's totally different now. So, all these recruiting websites, all that kind of stuff. And I say at first, I really didn't take football as serious as I should have took it in high school. So that was like another big thing I say for me. But I knew it was something I loved and I wanted to continue doing. So I just had to put my work in. That's what I had did.
When you were in high school, what other sports were you involved in?
I had ran track for a little bit. I did that about 2 years, but yeah, I was just doing that to stay in shape.
Isn't it crazy? I feel like track, there's like people with track who catch on, and they track becomes their life. We've interviewed people on the show who are like professional runners and collegiate runners. That shit's tough. Like I always said, like it was a good way to stay in shape. Like I swam when I would play basketball, but I swam in the off season and it kept me in shape. But I never wanted to swim full time because it's just like grueling. Like all you do is just swim or run. I'm like, it's a lot. Yeah. You need to be really committed. So when you're in high school track, even still, like you're doing it to stay in shape. But some of those times I guarantee you're walking into practice like, shit, I know what I'm doing today, and I'm just running.
Yeah, especially being a younger guy, I always try to compete and go against some of the faster guys to get faster and stuff like that. So it's always something mental process you got to go through.
Yeah, it is. And when you go into college, you go to Memphis. What was
Mhm.
it about Memphis that you liked that drew you in?
Um, I say a big part family. I feel like I'm real family oriented. I want to be close to my grandma and my late granny. She had passed. So I wanted to be out there closer to them. So that was the main reason I say. And Memphis
Yeah,
is a good school. Like I'm not, don't get me wrong. Like it's still a good school. So
yeah. So let's go into you are a linebacker. You're a tough, you know, that I always think of like basketball and like how I would compare positions. Like, and we always talk about comparisons. You're talking about the greatest of all times, and it's tough to compare errors, but it is
mhm.
something with when you're comparing like that position because your job is to hit and to hit
Yeah,
hard. Like linebackers, anytime I think of a linebacker, it's like almost it's something that you're just like, oh shit, they're coming for me. They're trained to hit and hit hard.
yeah.
What went into your mindset when you that was your job? You're just like, okay, I'm gonna hit. Like, did you develop that, or were you always kind of the kid who just like wanted that contact, like loved
Yeah.
that contact?
Um, okay, so I'll start off and say my pops, he played collegiate football, Middle
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee State University. He played safety, so I kind of say it runs in the blood, but I always like to hit like since I was little, like growing up, I would play we call it throw him up, bust him up. Somebody throw the football up, you gotta hit him. So that's what I grew up playing. So that's in my blood.
I like that. It definitely has that. I always tell I like teach my the younger generation of kids that I coach in basketball. I'm like, you got to hit before you get hit. Like you
Yeah,
don't like no one really realized it. I don't think I learned that until like later on in my college career. Like I was always trying to like go around people, and then it's just like, man, you got to hit first. Like when you hit
yeah,
first, it's a different ball game.
yeah.
When you're playing, is that your mentality? Just like track down, I got to make the initiate contact.
Yeah, I look at it like if I don't make the hit's gonna come to me. So I mean, I'd rather be the one making the hit than receiving it. So yeah.
Nice. I'm gonna play that back for my daughter just on repeat in her room. You saying that for the rest every night, just like subliminal. She'll be like, okay. So you're in college. The pressures of a college athlete right now, you not only classwork, but you're, obviously propelling on the field is job number one. Classroom job number two. And now you have this added initiative of you have NIL deals and you have several that you work on right now. When you are building that brand, is that something in your mind that you're like, is there a limit on the amount of things that you'll do where you're just like, okay, this is starting to become a distraction, or you just like bring that shit on because it's a way to make good money? Does it like take away from your focus on the sport, or are you like, bring it on, I can handle both?
I feel like a big part of this is like time management. You just got to know how to manage your time. Obviously in the season, I'm a lot more busier, so I don't have a lot of free time. So I got to utilize all my free time that I do have. So
Yeah.
whether that's all I'm doing work study, stuff like that. So I just got to find little ways to add in time for that. So as long as you do that, I feel like you'll be good.
Yeah. And time management is a huge skill. We talk about what happens in your growth as a human being and your growth as an athlete. And time management becomes one of those things that transitions when you're looking for a job later on in life. Like, how well were you able to manage the time? It's the one of the like top questions that comes up. Like, what is a way that you can manage your time? And you, with all these NIL deals, have to juggle both, but you have to manage your time. Now, when you get an NIL deal, is that something is like there are little bragging rights? Like when you get something, is there like your friends, your teammates, or you just kind of like, yeah, I got, five? Or is it like trading cards? Like I remember just like going and be like, even like Pokemon cards, you're like, oh, I got this, and you're just like, oh shit, like now it's like, oh, I got this NIL deal. Now you're like, what? That's crazy. Hook me up.
Yeah, it's little jokes here and there. I try to like tell my guys here like make sure everything's professional on their end, like everything will come in. You just gotta brand yourself correctly and do it
Yeah.
the right way. That's the
So
main thing. Like telling them.
how would you brand yourself correctly? Like what do you need to do to correctly brand yourself to get the best deals?
I would say your social media presence, how you present yourself, because I try to take that as like a business interview. So make sure you have everything in order. You don't have anything crazy and stuff on your page. That's like the main thing, especially at
There
this age, stuff going on.
seriously, like the people are gonna find tweets that you did 20 years,
Yeah,
back in the past and things like this. And when you're a kid, you're just kind of like popping off. Like I'm sure, like if I ever ended up working for like the Celtics or something down the road, they would go back through and see like 500 tweets that said like Celtics suck. Like I fucking hate the Celtics. It would be just they would never take me. They'd be like, I saw these tweets. Like you're not Celtics material. But it is, you have to really clean your brand and make sure that you're posting the things. Now, when we're in the era of social media, how do you handle like telling your story, like your actual journey of an athlete? How do you balance that telling that story along with making sure that you're not like messing up your brand? Is there like a line that you're like, I can't cross that line, but I need to make sure that I'm keeping people posted on what I'm actually going through of the authentic real me?
yeah. Yeah, I would say it's kind of a line, like a personal, I say more personal life compared to like what I do outside of that. So that's how I manage that.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's a very smart decision because you have to kind of keep it clean. But at the same time, people want to know like what's going on. They want to see the behind the scenes of what Jaylen's going through. And that's like the cool thing. So are you because I know social media. I signed up for Threads like on the second day. Like I'm trying to be state of the art. But like even my Instagram account, I notice a lot of athletes these days don't post as much. A lot of things are in their stories. Is the story the way to go when you're building that brand? Is a story the way to kind of tell the things that are going on in your life and then the posts become more about the NIL?
Yeah, I would say that story is probably the best, or like reels. I know reels is real popular Instagram, so it really just depends on the platform. But yeah, I say stories like the main thing. Yeah.
What about TikTok? Is that do you post on TikTok like in terms of your NIL deals, or is like TikTok just it seems like I go on TikTok and people are just wiling out. Like it's a completely different game. But then you go on Instagram, it's like there's different levels of it's like you're LinkedIn and you're just in a shirt and tie. Like there are all those little memes where a guy's in a shirt and tie and he's on TikTok shirtless. Like that's what I feel like. But I feel like TikTok is growing so much in terms of those influencer and making money. So when you have TikTok? Do you have all of these different social media channels that you use for your NILs?
Yeah, I say my TikTok. I say it's kind of more personal. I like to cook and stuff on the side, so I post most of my cooking stuff on there or my other Instagram page.
I love this. So you're like a low key chef.
Yeah, I keep it on the low, little some. I cook for the guys, position group stuff like that.
That's incredible. That's an incredible skill. I love, and you're always going to be the most popular. I have a friend who cooks. He's big into barbecue. He does all these like cooks different all kinds of stuff. And growing up, he used to cook for us.
Yeah,
And like he's the most popular guy in our group because he knows how to cook. Like if our Super Bowl, we're like, Jeremy, you coming? Because he knows how to cook. The rest of
yeah,
us don't. Like we're just so you immediately become that life of every party because you're just like, yeah, Jaylen's he knows how to cook. He knows how to cook that food. What started that culinary adventure for you?
Um, I actually took culinary in high school for about, I think it was like 2, 3 years. I think it was two, but I never finished it out. That's why I don't have my certificate for it. But if I finished it out, I would have my certificate. But I love cooking like and stuff on the side, and I say my family too. That's another big thing. They like to cook and stuff like cookouts. Like
Mm-hmm.
growing up, I always go to cookouts or they call it like community days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what really got me into cooking for real, just watching them.
Is that something that you want to pursue in the future? Like once you're done playing, is that something you think, are you just comfortable cooking for your family? Or would you be like, I want to own a restaurant one day? Is that one of those, like, is that passion, or is it just kind of like a side hustle right now?
Right now, it's just kind of on the side, but I'm really open to like starting a business, stuff like that. Just got to do a little bit more brainstorming on that part, but I'm open to it. So,
That's we need to get some. We need to contact some NILs that will put you in front of like the right cooking people. Because if you have all of this, have you ever been approached by someone who, like in the cooking and culinary world, to do an NIL deal?
I haven't been approached, but my stepmom, she used to work in culinary school, so I like working with her. Little
Nice,
collaboration. Has her own cookie business, keto cooking business. So
nice.
pretty good. Stay healthy, stuff like that.
I was gonna say there's always that. I feel like as a 43-year-old man, I just had a conversation with a colleague the other day, and we were talking about like what we're so programmed, and you'll get how old are you? You're very, still very like you're what, 20,
22.
22, so you're still young. Like you'll get to that point where it's like you're training yourself to eat healthier. Like we're, as athletes, we eat on the healthier side, but like if something bad comes our way, we're like, cool, like I'll eat it because you know that you're going to burn that off right away because you need a lot of fuel to keep your body going. Is that like when you think like that becomes something where, as a athlete down the road, you continue to eat like that? Like it's hard to change your habits when you're like, oh, I'll go get ice cream tonight with the girls, and then you're like, well, I need I I'm not a professional athlete anymore. Like I need to burn that shit off. It
Yeah.
becomes tough, and that becomes a mindset. That's like something when you talked about like cooking healthy snacks is such a wave of the future, because I think that's what, especially for athletes, if you can brand that to athletes and say,
Mm.
hey, I cook this healthy, it tastes great, but it's
Yeah.
good for you. That's the wave of the future. That's what everyone wants.
You can't
Because
beat that.
yeah, we're sitting there just trying to eat healthy, but like if it doesn't have taste, no one wants it. But if it has too much taste, it's like bad for you. Finding that a healthy balance with an athlete is huge. And that's where we need to get you an NIL deal with like you getting yourself on a platform where you're promoting healthy, good food. Because that's just like that's all it is. That's what you need. And it's
Most.
tough because do you guys have meal plans set up for you in college right now, or is it kind of just go to the dining hall and eat?
Um, yeah, I say here it's a lot different than at Memphis. So it's kind of just like the dining hall. That's the only really options we have right now. It's not really a whole lot of outside options either, just because of location. So it's kind of tough right now. But
Yeah, it's fascinating. I just think I'm see, you got me on a whole culinary. Like my mind is just going food right now. And I haven't
yeah,
even eaten breakfast yet. That's like another thing, because I always think about that was becomes like the weight loss thing. You're so busy, and I don't eat until probably like 2:30, 3 o'clock every day, because my mornings are just like driving kids all over the place, doing things, making calls, taking stuff, and I just don't eat. And I know that becomes a problem. Is that, as an athlete, like you have to be eating. How many meals do you eat per day?
I say my goal is 4
Yeah,
because I'm trying to bulk up a little bit before we head into fall camp because I know
yeah,
fall camp, you lose a lot of weight and stuff like that. So
yeah.
to get in the right weight for the season. So yeah,
How how exciting is it that, because I always think of like, you know training camp for basketball and stuff, and you're like, okay, we're doing this, but like I'm not gonna lie, training camp for basketball is not that much different than the day before when you were working out on your own. Football, however, that training camp, I feel like it's a completely different ballgame. Like you can simulate stuff on your own and simulate stuff with a group, but until you walk into that training camp, is it just a very different game? Not game, but like a different mindset when you walk onto that field for training camp compared to your preseason workouts.
yeah, it's pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie. Like you tell who's been working the whole summer and who's just been bullshitting. Like that's like the key factors because it's gonna be hot. You're gonna be full pads. Gonna do the conditioning, all these drills, full speed. So you just got to be ready, like mentally, physically, every aspect. You can't really prepare for it, but you just got to kind of know like what's about to happen. Like you got to get through it to get to the season.
Especially too. I mean, you got to know the plays. I feel like you got to know what's happening. You got to know where
Mhm.
what your read is, every single place you're supposed to be at all times. On top of that, being in prime physical shape. I always say, like, football is so tough because as an athlete, you are thinking and you're hitting, and it's like the best athletes in the world play football. Like, people always get mad at me because they're like, well, the best athletes play basketball. I'm like, no, we're tall as shit. Like, I'm 6'10". Like, we're tall people. I wasn't the most athletic. Like, I would get I'm 6'10". I was skinny. I wasn't as fast. Like, I would never last as football. But like, I feel like a lot of football players I know end up playing basketball. Like, they would come to open gyms and stuff and just wreck kids. And I'm like, damn, this guy is so athletic, so quick, so explosive, and he knows how to play basketball. It's a skill. I think football players are, it's tremendous, like what you're able to accomplish. So when you're kind of, do you ever play basketball? Was that, are you a guy who can go in there and just like dunk?
I say it depends on who I'm playing against. I'm playing like, yeah, doing that like conditioning based. We're just throwing it up, but I do love competition every now and then. You know what I'm saying? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not back down to that, but it's mainly like a conditioning thing right now. But we also try to focus on not getting injured and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, but yeah, I do
that's
like.
that always. I, as an athlete, I always looked at other sports that would, I wouldn't get hurt, but would give me some other benefit besides, I used to play soccer and stuff like, and I never played soccer a day in my life. I would just go and kick a soccer ball around with a group of dudes just because it was like exhausting. And I'm like, this, and it was different, and I had fun doing it. And I was like, wow, that was the best workout I had all week. And I was playing fucking soccer.
Yeah,
That's a fun thing, like stepping into another sport, but then you're always worried about getting hurt. Do your coaches sit down and they're just like, yo, you cannot do this, or this during the off season? Do you guys have those rules in place, or is it just common sense at this point?
we have those rules. I say they're a lot more strict in the season though. They really get mad. You get hurt in this on the hoop.
Yeah. Yeah, the season's no joke. Could you? I feel like in college, we Miles Austin, who ended up playing for the Cowboys, played football at Monmouth University where I went, and Miles was a tremendous basketball player, and we'd be kind of like messing around after practice, and he'd come in, he's still in season, or we're like in preseason, and he'd come in and start like playing like pickup, and his coaches would lose their mind. I'm like, but it was crazy because I was like, Miles could be like our seventh man. Like, he was that good at basketball that he could have played both. But yeah, his coaches were not pleased about that. And then I was like, why? And then 2 years later, he's getting drafted and playing in the NFL. I was like, oh, okay. That's why. I see now. So getting back into kind of the mindset of an athlete and dealing with these NILs, like you with Loop Mogul, you work with Loop Mogul, and you do some stuff where you're like these AMA sessions where you're actually answering questions from fans, etc. When you have things like that, is that something that you have to prepare for as an athlete? Are you like, okay, what are they going to ask me? You want to make sure you're coming off, or is it just like you want to show your authentic self and you're just like, I'm going to answer it how they ask me? Or is there like some preparation? Are they telling you to have to prepare, or are you just like, no, I'm answering, this is who I am?
I say it's more authentic because I feel like there's no like real way to like prepare for the questions that they're gonna ask you. You're not really gonna know. So it's better to be authentic than try to figure out all these different questions prior to. But I feel like you should kind of have like an idea of the kind of questions that they're gonna ask. So that's how I look at things like that.
When you think of these NIL deals, and I don't want to get you in any sort of trouble right now, so you can say pass and I will pass. But it's
Okay.
funny because I always look at NIL deals and I'm like, I'll look through, different feeds of NIL athletes, and I'm like, uh, hot girl, hot girl, hot girl. Like it's just you're just going and you're like, damn. Like that's and I guess that's what these promotions are trying to do. It's like famous dude, hot girl. And that's what the NIL deals become. Is there any kind of like when you're an athlete and you don't have as many NIL deals, and then you see a girl who might go to a smaller school, but she's looks great, are you just like, damn, that's good for her. That's
Yeah,
awesome, but damn, like she's probably making twice what I'm making because she looks very, very nice. I'm trying to be politically correct. Is that something that like athletes ever talk about? Do you guys ever kind of like break that down, or is that like a pass?
uh, I don't really like to compare things. I feel like if you're at a different place, it's probably different opportunities and stuff like that. But you really have to look at it like you versus you every day. Be the best version of yourself. Opportunities are gonna come. You just got to be true to yourself.
That's a great answer. Jaylen, you are ready for the big time. That was a really good answer because I was like, this question could be like, I never want to ask anything that would put someone, anything that goes out there that they're like, oh shit, I want to take that back. But I like because I'm always pro athlete, but that is always something that I've noticed in NIL deals. Like you search NIL and it's like 500 pictures of girls in bikinis, and you're just like, damn. I was like, man, that's like the market is good, but like, are they showing them running? Are they showing them playing? Are they showing them doing that? It seems like there's a lot of other things. I'm like, just show them doing their sport, doing their thing, because these girls are more than just a pretty face. Like they'll go out there and kick your ass. I just always am like with these NIL deals, like making sure that people are doing it responsibly. And you just answered that question very responsibly and perfectly. So I appreciate that.
Most definitely.
So Jaylen, you have multiple NIL deals. You look on your Instagram, there's like FNX Fitness, Aftermath Sports, Mad Army, Lifestyle Bands, Virtual Stacks, like Loop Mogul. You have some good deals. When you look at those, how did those come to be? How did you get that deal in the first place? Do you have an agency that you work with, or were people contacting you through social media?
I work through Burst Sports right now, so I
Okay.
say majority of the deals came through that. I say Mad Army. They're based out in Hawaii, and we had I don't know if I had ran into anybody out there, but we had like a bowl game when I was at Memphis. But that got canceled, the Hawaii Bowl.
Okay.
So I'm running them, but I love their like brand and clothing and stuff. So like
When
athletic.
I was gonna say, like that's the cool thing. As a college athlete already, I think I wore like a few things that I owned from high school in college, because everything else, like you're given gear, you're given this, you're given that. On top of that, having NIL deals, like they're giving you gear as well. It's pretty dope to like be able to walk around and just represent and never have to buy clothes. You're just like, cool. Like I'm dressed how I want to be dressed, and the clothes look good. So you can kind of style while wearing these fits that people are like, damn, where'd you get that? And that's the biggest thing. Because now, have you ever had someone come up and been like, where did you get that shirt? Where did you get this? And then end up going and buying it?
In public, I say not really. But I say like within my family, they really love like some of the stuff. So I try to put them on. Like I say, for example, my mama, she's trying to get like back into fitness and stuff. So I'm trying to get her right on the plan and stuff.
That's incredible. That's it is. I mean, again, you're 22, I'm 43. Like I look at, like if I talk to my mom, I was like, Mom, let's get your ass in shape. She'd be like, I'm like 75 years old. Like, no, I'm good. Like this is where I need to be. I've lived my life. You're good. So that's
Yeah.
good. I'm glad I'm glad it's able to kind of show with these NIL deals, like show that you are contributing to these brands. Like your people are looking at what you're wearing, what you're doing, your performance on the field, and they're rewarding that company who you represent by buying their merchandise because you're doing such a good job in your social media presence and on the field. And that's what it's all about. And, you know, that's why athletes like you are so successful in this game, because you put out a good product and people will just latch on to that. And that's really cool to see. And I'm really glad that you were able to join us today to talk a little bit about your experience.
Appreciate you having me.
Of course. Well, Jaylen, this has been fun. We got a little NIL talk and really enjoyed talking to you. You are just a tremendous human being, and we're very excited for your career. And we want to be we can't wait to see where your career is going to take you. And we'll be following. So, Jaylen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
This has been the Overseas Famous Podcast. I'm Kevin Owens. We'll see you guys next week.